Welcome to Animosity, FP Wellman. I am FP Wellman, Fred Wellman, the host of your show. You're in the right place here on the Midas Touch Network and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, download, share, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, talk about it at the restaurants, annoy your neighbors, whatever you got to do. Man, it is Donald Trump arrest week. As I was heading to the studio, I saw Mark Meadows' picture. It was effing amazing. For those who don't know, I'm friends with the Vindmans, Rachel and Alex Vindman. And when Alex was getting under the pressure from the White House, Mark Meadows actually called the Army Chief of Staff and the Army leadership and said he wanted them to find dirt on Alex Vindman so that they could get rid of his promotion. The Chief of Staff of the White House called the Army to undermine their promotion of Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army. So there is some very, very sweet Schadenfreude or karma, whatever you ascribe to. I'm having a hell of a great time. I know my friends Alex and Rachel are drinking tea right now, not in jail in Fulton County at the moment. So anyway, it's a great day to be here in America. It's a great day for democracy. I have got a great guest. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a Democrat in a blue place, or excuse me, a blue dot in a red place, a rural Democrat living out in the tough places where the MAGA people run wild. What it's like to be a teacher. And we got so much cool stuff to talk about with Jess. I am so excited. So let's just get on with the show. We're back after a little bit of music. I'm still Fred Wellman. It's still on to my with FP Wellman. You're still in the right place. I am thrilled to have a guest. She's a good friend of mine. We'll talk about that in a second. But Jess Piper is executive director for an organization called Blue Missouri, which you'll find out about. She hosts her own weekly podcast called Dirt Road Democrat. She's got degrees in English and teaching, taught American literature for 16 years. She was that English teacher. After the 2016 election, Jess became very politically active. Jess ran for state representative in HD1 in Northwest Missouri in 2022. She was not successful. Use that experience to help organize progressives in rural Missouri. I'm thrilled to have you on the show finally, Jess. I mean, how long we've been hanging out? 3-4 years now, right?
It's been a few years, Fred. Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thrilled to have you. So it's funny how for those who, I think people on the show are sick of the fact that I'm usually friends with everybody who comes on. I'm very blessed. But Jess's story is funny because Jess goes back to my partner Heather, and as I joined the Lincoln Project, and I was putting together. So when I joined Lincoln Project, Steve Schmidt's like, Wellman, you need to put together our own general officer panel. I'm like, Steve, no, fuck, we're not doing that. Everybody's got general officer. I said, no, we're going to put together this pillar that I run at the Lincoln Project is for veterans and military family members. We're trying to convince military families not to vote for Trump. We're trying to convince veterans. I said, no, I'm going to put together a council of veterans and military family members and service members to talk about the issues. And I told this to Heather, who lives in Missouri, and she says, you got to get this girl, Jess. I said, who is she? Oh my God, she's a military mom and she's fire. I'm like, okay. So I followed you on Twitter and I think I DM'd you, said, you got to be on my thing. And here we are, right? 3 years later. And she was right.
Here we are.
Yeah. Did you do a town hall with me? I think you did, right? Or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. We
were on a lot of videos together.
We did a lot of videos together. Yeah. So, well, now we are again on Democracy in the studio, man. Look at how far we've come. It's fancy. Let's start there though. Jess, you're up in Northwest Missouri. You've really coined the term Dirt Road Democrat. I was talking to a candidate in Idaho for Congress, and she's a young lady running her second time, and we were talking about all the ways. I said, how can I help you? And I don't know how I mentioned it offhand, Jess, that I knew you. And she goes, oh my God, Jess Piper, her Dirt Road Democrat thing. I'm like, all right, I'm going to introduce you to Kaylee. So you've really it's almost become a brand that you talk about the idea of being at the end of the dirt roads. What does that mean to you? And what does it mean to the average American? They understand what we're dealing with folks like you were dealing with.
I really think it means, not that kind of Democrat, not a corporate Democrat,
right.
Someone who has always been rural, raised and lived rural, still rural. And it encompasses a way of life that a lot of people think doesn't exist. I mean, they think I'm some kind of unicorn out here, that there are no progressives, no Democrats in rural areas. And that is wrong. And that's why I had tweeted something about living at the end of a dirt road. And someone said, you're a dirt road Democrat. And I was like, oh, that
I like that.
And they're like, yeah. And so
A brand
it's been
is born.
mine since. Yeah.
And what does that? I mean, and what does that mean? I mean, what's the unique life at Dirt Road? You said it very clearly. It's not. It's different. So many times we talk about Democrat, and when we're doing campaigning and all, we talk about the cities. Here in Missouri, we focus on St. Louis and Kansas City, maybe a little bit in Columbia, maybe a little bit of Springfield. But you're out in far northwest corner of our state, and there are progressives there, right? I mean, you hear from them. I mean, what are the unique ways that our fellow or rural Democrats face? What are the challenges they face, and how do you help?
Well, it's difficult sometimes to be a progressive out here. I mean, I ran, I lost, but 1 in 4 people voted for me. So, I mean, that means every time I go to the store that 25% of the people at the Walmart, voted for me. They believe in things like, access to reproductive health care. They believe in funded schools.
Yeah.
When you come out here, and I truly am in a place that Democrats have walked away from a long time ago. And to tell you the truth, the Republicans did too. And now they're just getting voted in because of culture wars and ideology. And quite honestly, because they're preaching Republican politics from the pulpits in churches.
Right.
And so it's a difficult place to be, right? So when the party walks away and says, we love you, God bless you for doing what you're doing, but we can't do anything because it's too red. We just keep slipping into this self-fulfilling prophecy of, not having candidates, and there's no Democrats out here.
Right. And the issues you face are real, right? They're very tough. We'll probably talk about a lot. We're definitely going to talk about schools. We talk about rural health care. I mean, these are all real battles that are being ignored because of culture wars or because it's just too hard, right? I mean, how often did you hear it's just too hard?
All the time. And I didn't want to do it myself. I mean, I loved my job. I was teaching American Lit to juniors. That was my only plan, because a lot of times you end up in these small schools and you end up teaching 6 different subjects,
right.
So I got in a school that was big enough that I could just teach that. But 2019, the abortion ban came through, and my representative, he voted for it. And then he had the gall to go and put in our local papers that he was happy that there was no exception for rape or incest. And I was like, that's enough. It's enough. Jesus. So I wrote to him, I called him, I emailed him, I started posting about him. I wrote a rebuttal in the paper in my tiny community to rebut what he had said. And that man would not call me back. And he knows who I am. Yeah. So I was mad. And my husband, Dust. I did. I'm sitting on the couch one day and I turned to him a couple weeks later. I said, Dust, you call him. Call Alan. 20 minutes, Fred.
Oh my God.
Dust has a phone call from Alan. And he said, I don't know. He said, call my wife. She's really mad. So he called me and I was hot and I laid into him. And this is and I've told this story a couple times, but it resonates every single time. He told me, ma'am, I don't have to talk to you. And I'm calling you out of a favor to your husband.
Wow.
And I wanted to pass out. The white rage was popping. So that was one thing. And then in 2020, when I went to vote for Joe Biden, there was no Democratic representative for me to vote for. And I thought, it's enough. If nobody else is going to do it, I'll do it.
And here you are. Yeah, in the fight, and it's wonderful to hear that. I was on we talk about this a lot. As you know, I'm with Forgotten Democrats. You're with Blue Missouri. We are, for disclaimer for everybody watching and listening, we are sister organizations. Blue Missouri is a state level. I'm doing the congressional level type thing, and so it is that idea that we aren't running everywhere, right? And that's what you do with Blue Missouri. It's like the idea that there just aren't choices for people, and what that means to our democracy. I mean, and you're seeing it in rural Missouri when they don't have a choice. What does that look like when there's no Democrat in the room?
I'll tell you what it looks like. We're training progressives to vote for Republicans. Because every time I go to the ballot and there's no one to vote for, I pull a Republican ticket. I vote in the Republican primaries because I'm going to vote for the person who's least likely to hurt me.
Right.
And we have trained a generation of Democrats and progressives to vote for Republicans. And that's awful. And that's what we're up against. You got places in the Boot Hill, Fred, that haven't had, a Democrat in 30 years.
Wow.
It's a generation of folks who have never seen or heard a Democratic message.
Yeah, and then the Republicans then only answer the most extreme levels of their party, right? And then, like you said, your guy, one, doesn't even have to respect his constituents, but two, doesn't have to listen to him as far as anything beyond the most extreme voices in his head, because he knows a good primary they're right?
Right. And the good thing, and this is another thing about having a candidate, I didn't win. I knew what my chances were going in. But here's the thing, I raised a ton of money. They couldn't ignore me. They had to drop $100,000 into a race they hadn't put a dime in decades.
Wow.
The Republicans had to keep their candidate home. He had to knock doors. He had to talk about schools and roads and healthcare, things that he didn't want to talk about, because you know what he wanted to talk about? Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right.
And I'm here saying, no, that has nothing to do with the fact that I can pull pieces of my road off and bring it into my yard if I want to, right?
Right.
And so by forcing their hand, by having a candidate, even one that we know will not win, just by having a candidate, we're forcing their hand, right? We're making them raise money, stay home, and talk about issues. And that's what we talk about all the time when we talk about reframing a win in rural parts of America. Right. That's a win until we can, get to a place where we can flip the seat.
And what's the model you're using in Blue, Missouri?
The model is funding down ballot candidates, right, because these are candidates, and I never want to throw shade at the party, right?
Right.
But here's the real deal. Here's the brass tacks. I ran. I didn't get a dime.
Right.
And so if we are going to ask people run and ask people to do hard things, I'm going to tell you the truth too. It upends your life to run in a rural space, right? Yeah. I loved my job. I loved my career. I can't go back to teaching in this small community because I said the word abortion, because I said things that people find offensive in this conservative community, and they'll say, I don't want my kid in her class, right?
Right.
So we're asking people to do tough things. The least we can do is give them, a check and say, we've got your back. If you'll knock the doors, if you'll show up at the chili supper, if you'll march in the parade, we've got your back.
Right. And that's what's unique, I think, I like about the model, and we use it for Forgotten Dems too, is it really is about actually giving money. It's not we're not running ads. I mean, you don't plan to run any ads or anything like that. I mean, your intent is, and what's the feedback you're getting? I think you've been traveling the state, right? Rural areas of the state, preaching your message about inclusion and getting Democrats to run. I mean, what's the feedback you're hearing from folks as you travel the state?
They're excited. They're very excited because as well as I do, 1/3 of the state is rural. And if we are not pulling along rural Missouri, the way rural Missouri goes is the way the state goes. Right. Those 40% of the seats are mostly in areas like mine, cornfields and bean fields that haven't had candidates for decades. And so people are excited and they're willing to, give. And just like I do, that this is crowdfunding with small donors. Right. It's just like I did for my campaign. But here's the thing, Fred, I raised more money than any state rep candidate across the state, and that should have never happened. I raised $275,000 for a race in Northwest Missouri. Wow. Because when you tell the truth and you tell people what you need to do, they're willing to give you 10 or 15 bucks at a time.
Yeah. And you did something unique. I mean, you're very much on TikTok. For those who don't know, Jess is just a TikTok star. I mean, I think that's one of the ways I found you was on TikTok. I'm not a TikTok star. And you've built a solid following of people who want to hear your message and listen to your message. And you've nationalized a lot of this. And the issues we just talked about, and I know we've had a couple of Missouri folks on the show when Crystal Quay was just on, of course, running for governor. And I think people, feedback from listeners is that it is true that an issue in Missouri is the same issue in rural Illinois. It's the same issue in rural Colorado. It's the same issue. I mean, rural is America. Every single state from California to New York's got rural Americans who are having these battles and having these struggles. This is why there are Republicans elected in California. It's not the cities. It's the rural counties, and so the issues you face are national issues that we have to answer. We had John Nichols on the show a bit, and I did a special with him today, and he talked about Janet Protosiak and her win with the Supreme Court, and she went very hard, running airtime, running ads in rural areas on over-the-air radio, on classic radios. I mean, she made an effort, and the turnout, as you and I know, at a state level race, 5% in a rural area. If we do that in every single rural county, how many counties are in Missouri? I don't even know. Is hundreds?
Oh gosh, I had 4 in my district. I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of those big states that has a ton of counties. And when you get 5% more than you would have normally in those counties, you win statewide.
That's right.
This is why North Carolina has a Democratic governor, right? I mean, it's why also, by the way, by ignoring that, it's why Virginia has a Republican governor, right? And so I think the lessons you learn do apply not just to Missouri, but anybody across the country. I think that's why you've got a voice that people listen to, is that you're not talking about just Missouri issues. These are the issues of folks who live in places where the roads falling apart and the people in power for 20 years don't give a damn. are American issues, right? I mean, I saw it in Georgia.
Right.
Same thing in Georgia. I remember knocking on doors myself and having people say, "Man, I've never had a political campaign of any kind stop on this door," and they're hungry for it. They're hungry to feel represented and seen. And on that note, I mean, what did you hear as you ran that heavily MAGA district? I mean, I think you had some windows broken out, if I remember correctly. I mean, you had some adventures, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't have any windows broken out.
Okay.
I did have some signs stolen, and something mysterious happened to my car,
Oh, okay.
which we never figured out, but I had to buy a new car.
Fun.
But, actually, what I heard that really, really surprised me over and over again is that people would say, you seem like a nice person. You were my kid's teacher. I can't vote for you because I'm a Christian. And that happened the first time. I was nearly knocked down with it, and by the 5th, 6th, 10th time, I'd gotten used to it. And so, like I was saying earlier, they really do preach Republican politics from the pulpit. And I have a lot of Christian friends that are Democrats, and so it's very confusing. I was born and raised, a Southern Baptist. It's hard because of that. And I would say that is one of the biggest hurdles in rural America is, Christian ideology and thinking that is an extension, being a Republican is an extension of being a Christian is what they truly think. And then, I had some odd doors. I knocked one and a lady told me she couldn't vote for me because she was a Christian, but she looked at my flyer. She said, I see you're a teacher, and her district had just gone to 4 days a week. And I was like, aha, I've got her here, right? I've got her. And she said, I hope that you'll bring prayer back to school. And my campaign manager was with me, and she's like pulling me, she's like, Jess, don't. And I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you, you can pray anytime you want in school. At any moment, you can drop to your knees and pray in school, but it is not going to get your kid 36 days more of school compared to their 5-day peers. It's not going to bring back 432 days that they have missed K through 12 by going to a 4-day school. And then I walked away and I didn't get her vote. But what are you going to do, right?
Right. I mean, you can't get past these kind of things. We had the same situation here where I live near the city, where a gentleman running for school board came by, and my partner agreed with him on most things. And then he goes, yeah, but I think the biggest issue for me is these transgenders. And she's like, what the transgenders? I go, well, it's a real problem. The way they're infiltrating things and trying to ruin the girls' sports. She's like, okay, she's like, dude, what transgender athletes are there in Rockwood School District? And he had no examples. But he's like, this is my number one issue. He's like, bro, what the hell are you talking about? And the only good thing that's gratifying in that story is that he actually lost. He was part of the Moms for Liberty slate that Rockwood School District organized. If you know our area, it's far West County, Missouri, St. Louis. They put a slate of their own out, the people who are more progressive, and they actually won, which is the chance. And we're going to pick up this conversation about schools because it's such an important topic. And I got a retired teacher, so I'm gonna pick your brain. We have our first sponsor break, so let's hear from our sponsors real quick. I'm gonna tell you a secret. I've moved 3 times in the last 4 years, and across all that time, I've subscribed to newspapers, websites, online services, gyms, everywhere. And I go and I completely lost track of which ones I still have and what I'm paying for it all. Well, thanks to Rocket Money, I finally have a tool to help me sort it all out. Almost as soon as I opened it, I found 3 different newspapers and streaming services I was double subscribed to, and it saved me money immediately. If you're like me, subscriptions are probably draining your wallet, and that's before I get to all the free trials I've subscribed to over the years and never got around to canceling. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions, and they might not even remember subscribing to half of those. You have no idea just how much you're spending each month. You need Rocket Money. It's a great app that tracks all of your expenses so you know exactly where your money is going. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Now, most people think they're spending about $80 in their subscriptions, when in reality, the number is closer to $200. And when you're signed up for so many things, like streaming services you use just to watch one show, or free trials or delivery services you don't use anymore, it's really easy to lose track of what you're paying for. With Rocket Money, you can easily cancel the ones you don't want with just the press of a button. No more long hold times or annoying emails at customer service. Rocket Money does all the work for you. Now, they can even negotiate to lower your bills for you, like up to 20%. And all you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money handles it from there. Rocket Money lets you monitor all your expenses in one place. Recommends custom budgets based on your past spending, and they'll even send you notifications when you've reached your spending limit. With over 3 million users and counting, Rocket Money customers save an average of $720 a year. So do me a favor, stop wasting money on things you don't use, cancel your unwanted subscriptions, and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Fred. That's rocketmoney.com/Fred. rocketmoney.com/Fred. Sign up today, save money, feel more secure in your budget. Trees are a renewable resource, but not an unlimited resource. I mean, honestly, trees don't actually grow on trees, right? So every day companies are clear cutting forests just to produce toilet paper. Trees and wood are amazing resources, but doesn't make sense to use them for a product we only use once and flush away. Those trees deserve better. That's why Real Paper uses bamboo to make their sustainable toilet paper. Not only does bamboo grow incredibly fast, because it's a grass, it can be cut, harvested over and over again, just like the grass in your lawn. So when you use Real, it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing trees or, look, I'm a tree hugger. I admit it freely. If you guys follow me, I hike every day. I'm out in the woods. And to know we're cutting down these beautiful trees for toilet paper, it just doesn't make sense. So Real, in a lot of ways, feels like an upgrade to me for my heart. It's always shipped free to my door. It's plastic-free shipping packaging. Again, it can schedule it. I can schedule it right on the line. Subscription goes to exactly where I need it, when I need it. I never have to worry about forgetting to buy anything at the store. Real is partnered with One Tree Planted. So with every box of Real that you buy, they're funding like reforestation efforts. And if you've ever hiked in one of those places where they're putting new trees in, it's beautiful to see, and it needs money. So unlike other TP that cuts down trees, Real is actively helping organizations to replant our forest and to grow our trees back. So look, Real Paper is available in easy, hassle-free subscriptions for an online purchase or a one-time purchase on their website. All orders are conveniently delivered to your doorstep with free shipping, 100% recyclable, plastic-free packaging. So if you head to Real Paper, I want you to go to realpaper.com/Fred. You sign up for subscription using my code Fred. You're going to get 30% off your first order and free shipping. So that's Real Paper, RELPAPER.com/Fred, or enter promo code Fred to get that 30% off your first order and free shipping. So let's make a change for good this year, right? Switch to Real Paper. Real is paper for the planet, and we're thrilled to have them a sponsor for this show. All right, back at it. So, and thank you to our sponsors, by the way. I am so blessed to have these great sponsors, and I hope you'll check the right products out and purchase their products because it's worth it. Having said that, I got a teacher. And you open that can of worms, sister, with the 4-day school week. And they're trying to sell these 4-day school weeks as a good thing, right? And not just in Missouri, everywhere. There's a lot of places doing this, right? And really, it's about budget. They don't want to budget the money at the same time, So where are we? I mean, where's 20 years of Republican rule? Where's Missouri sit education-wise? After this wonderful supermajority?
50th in teacher pay and 49th in educational funding.
Okay, that doesn't seem great. Yeah, wow, that's weird. So we're going to go to 4-day school week and make it better. And we continue to vote for these folks at the, So
the 4-day school week, it happened out here a long time ago. My stepdaughter actually graduated from a school that has been, I think they're on their 17th year of this, and it was because of budget issues. Right. So when they talk about this, it's because we can't recruit, we can't retain teachers. Well, you can come out to my kid's school and a starting teacher can make $33,000 a year with a bachelor's degree. Once she pays her teacher retirement, she's walking out with $1,500 in her pocket a month.
Jesus.
A month. And we can't keep them. No. It's a revolving door of teachers. And so what our rural schools have decided is, hey, we can't pay them anymore, but we'll cut off a day. Would that make you stay? Because then you've got 3 days that you can do a side hustle, right, Fred?
Right. Yeah, I guess there's not a lot of Uber driving though in your area.
No. My friend from Joplin tried to send me a DoorDash one time. I was like, girl, there is no DoorDash. But the most frustrating thing about the 4-day week is that teachers like it, and so you'll hear teachers defend it, and I'm like, girl, that's for you. I mean, they did it for you. You're supposed to like it. But the problem is because, they didn't have the money to fund you. Yeah. But Fred, think about districts in your area. Yeah. Think about Rockwood. Right. What would happen if they said, hey, let's go to 4 days a week? How would that fly there?
Yeah, it would be a train wreck because, you know,
Right.
working families, well-off families, by the way, in that area, the whole St. Louis County, fairly well-off. Don't be fooled. They'd lose their minds because also, by the way, that, you know, what people forget is childcare. School is childcare for a lot of working people, right? Is having their child at school is part of their childcare plan, and now they got to adjust that. It's easy, and not sadly, some places it's part of their food plan. You know, feeding their kids has to do with being in school at those times. You know, and it does go to, and here it is, of course, here we talk about quite a bit, is school choice. That lovely, it's such a lovely, friendly term. It's a classic Republican thing, right? It's like, hey, we're not, it's nothing negative. It's just school choice. Doesn't everyone want choice? I mean, school choice is
It's like
great,
right
right?
to work,
It
right?
seems so nice. Yeah, school choice. I mean, everybody deserves choice, right? And I read, you sent me an article today. Remember, I was reading that article. I mean, it really is actually about enacting more school voucher programs for kids to go to private schools. And I've seen you rail on this pretty heavily. I mean, I think you've made a nemesis of the lobbyists that pushes this. It's pretty fun seeing you dance with these lobbyists and tell them the deal. But it all sounds so innocent, right? But what's the truth in these programs? I mean, the truth of school vouchers, school choice, which is really vouchers, is not what it seems, right?
It's a scam. It's 100% a scam. They have defunded schools to create chaotic environments with teachers and with students, with childcare. And then they can open up these private schools with your tax money. And this is the thing that galls me. Herzog is an organization that is pushing for school choice. They've opened up this huge campus out in Smithville. They invited Betsy DeVos's lobbyists to come out there and laugh at the rest of us, laugh their butts off at us while they, you know, pick our pockets. But they are saying, oh, look, Independence went to 4 days a week. We're open 5. They have the gall to say it because they are in the pockets of the people who defunded the schools.
Right.
The Herzog Corporation has a state rep that is on the Secondary Education Committee, who is also the scholarship provider for the Herzog Foundation. He's writing the bills, Fred, that fund the place he works.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how this is legal. I mean, I scream about it all the time. In fact, I get lawyers threatening to sue me if I don't shut my mouth about it. Yeah. But this is what I know. Blood from a turnip, right? Good luck.
Go for it. Take my car.
So it's just, it's such a scam. And if people think school choice is great, go to New Orleans, because after Katrina, they took over their entire school system in that city. Tell me what you think about the schooling in New Orleans. Head out to Arizona, where they've blown an almost $1 billion hole in their budget by funding these things. It's not fiscally responsible. And by the way, give me 20 vouchers. It doesn't matter. I don't have anywhere to take my kid.
That's the key.
Every time someone says that, you know they are defunding rural schools because there's nowhere for us to go.
Right. And sometimes they build these schools, like you said, just for the voucher programs, and they're not good schools. They come and go. I mean, according to that research I think I saw today is, you know, made these fail. Most of these they call them voucher schools, fail within 4 years because it's not enough money from the vouchers just to run an entire school from scratch. And what troubles me is having had a child who had a special needs, was on a 504 plan, as they call it, you know, special education. A lot of these schools, they don't have to accept, they don't accept kids with special needs or education benefits, correct?
Yeah, and it's not just us, you know, making up stories. You can go to the sites of these schools and they clearly say that they don't accept kids outside of the mainstream classroom. They are legally allowed to discriminate with your taxpayer funds. That would, you know how it is, and because I had a kiddo with a 504 too.
Yeah,
they are required to meet, you know, the needs of those students. And I'll tell you something that's even worse. You give this kiddo a voucher who might have some sort of disability. He goes to the school with the voucher, takes his money with him, right? His $8 or $9 grand. They don't give him services. He goes back to the public school every single day and uses the services from that defunded public school. That's that's the scam they've got going to.
Wow. Wow. And then on the same choice, at the same time, they're also fighting the DEI, right? The any kind of, right? So they're also basically saying they can also discriminate for color as well, and LGBTQ. A number of these programs are Christian based, and they've already gotten the laws, you know, the Supreme Court to say, well, if you're Christian based, you don't have to accept LGBTQ members. So we've got basically the goal here is to create, I mean, we say it very clearly, we're trying to create white Christian schools that are paid for by tax dollars. And there's really no way to deny that, is there?
No, and we know the history of vouchers. They come out of the Brown v. Board, decision.
Right.
They literally called them segregation academies
Yep.
because white folks didn't want to send their kids to school with black folks. So they created vouchers and they created segregation academies. I mean, that's the origin of the voucher, and it hasn't gone much further since, right? Yeah. The really bad thing is they've got people, because like you were saying at the beginning, it sounds good. Choice sounds good. And I would knock doors, and I had a woman tell me she loved her school. All of us love our schools out here, by the way. I don't talk to people who don't love their schools. They all did. They'll say, talk about the football team, the first thing. But anyway, she said, I think school choice sounds good. And I was like, that would defund your school. And she said, no, I had no idea, because the marketing of the words, right?
Yeah. Yep, and the budget's cut by each student leaves, it gets a budget cut, and then they talk about closing public schools because there's not enough students. I mean, I think I read an article this week. Basically, there was an article in one of the stories that talked about how the challenges of the kids, the enrollment's going down at public schools, and they don't know why. It's like, well, because voucher programs are going up. The kids are they're being paid not to go to the public schools. It becomes a never-ending cycle of failure for these schools.
And one thing I always want to tell people about is, because I speak to rural issues a lot, is that Betsy DeVos was caught a couple years ago saying this plainly about what she planned for rural kids. A reporter said, what does school choice look like in rural areas, because they don't have choice schools? And she said, well, I imagine that, while kids are working in the fields, they could wear headphones and listen to ebooks. Oh. And she said it out loud. And I knew right then, I was like, I got you. That's what you think my kid is worth. And by the way, where are kids working in fields? Has she ever been in a bean field? You need a $500,000 combine. Like, my kid's not driving that, especially not being distracted. What she means, though, Fred, is my kid could work at McDonald's. She could work at Casey's, right?
Right.
And then maybe she could get, an apprenticeship at the John Deere dealership after she's done at McDonald's. So they say it, they're putting it out there. We don't need tinfoil hats.
Yeah.
They are saying the quiet part out loud.
Wow. And that's the plans for a whole generation. And I think it's interesting, too, when Gen Z hears this, right? I mean, I think it's interesting to me. I wonder if the younger generations are they're witnessing this. I have talked to some of my Gen Z activist friends. Like, do they see the destruction of the schools in real time? And what does it mean to them? I know there's anger among the younger generation on the way their schools have been treated, the way their teachers. I mean, I think you're also seeing that, right? I mean, you experienced it, too. The teachers are leaving because of the harassment. Teachers are leaving because of the politicization of their schools, right? School book bans. I mean, we've been dealing with the book ban issues here in Missouri. How does that play on a teacher's soul?
It's devastating. It's too much. Most teachers aren't like me. They aren't outspoken. We're usually rule followers and do what we're supposed to do, which is why we became teachers, because we followed the rules, right? Yeah. And so you have people that are afraid to speak up. But in the state like Missouri, when people say, oh, the teachers' unions, what unions? Have you ever been out to rural Missouri? There's something called MSTA. They don't bargain for benefits or pay or anything like that. Conditions. There's a few, NEAs in the cities, but the vast majority of Missouri is not unionized.
Right.
And so we can throw that off the table right away. But then being demonized, being attacked. I mean, there was a teacher in Tulsa 2 days ago. Did you see that? Where she had posted, she's a librarian actually. And she said, oh, we have woke books and woke ideology in here because they teach kids about kindness and empathy. Libs of TikTok took that video, manipulated it, where she just said that they have woke ideology. They had 2 bomb threats at that school within days. The superintendent of schools in Oklahoma is an absolute extremist. His name is Ryan Walters. He retweeted that with her name.
Jesus.
And so now she's getting death threats as well. Why would anybody do this job for $33,000 a year to be absolutely demonized and attacked every day?
Wow. Yeah, it's and it's a hard job already, by the way. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, let's not be fools. I mean, our kids are great. Maybe I'm just being a little sarcastic. All kids are great. I love all my kids. Now that they're not at school, they're a lot easier to deal with. But yeah, I've got a grandson going to kindergarten now, and it is a lot. We're asking them to do a lot with very little, and it's not a fair fight sometimes. I feel like for our teachers and their administrators and the battles they're faced, especially in the last 3 years, and it's not getting better with Moms for Liberty matriculating from anti-pandemic to being basically anti-education at this point. I mean, how much CRT did you teach, Jess? I bet you taught a lot of CRT. CRT. I bet you were a big CRT person.
I found an article on myself. They called me the CRT teacher.
Well, there we
go.
Idea. See, there you have it. Yeah. I mean, it comes up a lot in English Lit, I bet, right? You know?
Well, here's the thing. I did teach the history of slavery through American Lit because that was my passion. I loved it. I grew up in a slave state in Arkansas. I didn't know my own history until I went to college, and I was like, kids really need to know this history. I'll tell you this, where I live, about 99% of my kids are white.
Yep.
I taught them the tough stuff. And I never had a kid say, oh, I'm embarrassed to be white. But they did say this, I didn't know. And now I want to do better. Yeah. And that's what the Republicans don't want. They don't want solidarity. They don't want the truth told, right? Have you heard of the PragerU crap? Have you ever looked into that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, Fred. Yeah. They're letting them use that as curriculum in Florida, and they're thinking about it in Oklahoma.
Yep, Texas, too.
It's the biggest crock. I went down, I was talking to Rachel Vindman yesterday on her podcast, and I went down a rabbit hole for her. Yes, you're welcome, Rachel.
She watches, by the way.
And I came up way dumber for it. But here's the thing. It is the most backward, whitewashed crap you have ever heard in your life. You will fall over. And they have a podcast, and they're only 5 minutes because their folks can't pay attention for longer than that. But you've got to check it out. You won't believe it.
We had Michael Harriet on the show a couple, 3 weeks ago. Remarkably intelligent, smart guy, lives in rural Georgia. He dissected the entire Florida curriculum too, which the Black History curriculum, which he actually called the white supremacy curriculum. And it really is shocking the way they can so easily manipulate the truth by just simply editing it out and leaving out the parts that are uncomfortable. And then making them fake. I mean, that's the problem too. And it leaves us with kids that don't understand the world they live in, and they recognize that, and then they're shocked later. I think we're coming up on our second break, so we'll take a break now for our second sponsor break. We've got a couple great sponsors, then we'll come back, and I want to talk about something even cooler. Cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. And I'm not talking about some weird mind voodoo or a wacky message board. No, we're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Now, not everything in a bad habit is bad. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes in an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing anxiety while breaking your bad habit. The first time I used Fume, I was shocked at how flavorful and fresh it tasted. It's easy to hold and perfectly balanced, and quite honestly, extremely fun to fidget with. The real wood material and sleek design definitely classes it up, and I feel pretty darn cool holding it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and honestly, even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories. There's no reason that can't be you. So join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Now, head to tryfume.com and use code FRED to save 10% when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code FRED to save an additional 10% off your order today. This episode of On Democracy is brought to you by Manukora Honey. Now, when I say honey, you're probably thinking those bear-shaped bottles you find at the supermarket. And let me tell you something, this is nothing like that. Manukora makes Manuka honey. A super honey comes from New Zealand, where the bees only feed on the nectar of the Manuka tree, making something that's rich, herbaceous, and complex with a creamier texture that's unlike anything you've ever tried before. And I really mean that. You can use it just like the honey you're used to. But Manuka honey is super because it also contains a unique antioxidants and prebiotics, as well as natural antibacterial compound called MGO that only comes from the nectar of this specific tea tree. Now, these nutrients support optimal immune and digestive health, so it's a win-win. You can continue to use honey in all the ways you love, and you can enjoy all the health benefits of MGO as well. Manukora sent me a jar, a squeeze bottle, and then some actually portable ones, which are in my luggage now. It's a bottle of their 850 plus MGO Manuka honey, their best-selling product. Now, the 850 plus honey has this creamy caramel texture that melts in your mouth and is unlike anything I've ever tried. I can grab a spoonful of it out of the jar to put in my favorite beverage. I like to squeeze it on my my English muffin with some butter because that's how I like to eat it, or on toast oatmeal. It's just really delicious. And look, if you live in the South, butter biscuit with honey, like this stuff's amazing. If you head to mountacora.com/Fred or use code Fred, you'll automatically get an extra free pack of 850 plus honey sticks with your order. That's a $15 value. Now, I love the jar and the squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for wherever you go. Like I said, I put it in my luggage. You can bring them with you whenever you're traveling. If you need a quick snack during a running or when you're running errands, they're the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym. As you guys know, I walk 3 to 5 miles a day. That's MANUKORA.com/Fred or use code Fred at checkout to get a free pack of compostable honey sticks with your order. You haven't tasted or seen honey like this before. I mean that. I'm always a skeptic myself, but it's a wonderful product. So indulge, try some honey with the superpowers from Manacor. This may shock you, but I'm a bit of a fan of good quality bath and body products. So I'm excited to introduce you to Sugar and Spruce. It's a woman and family owned and operated small business. It's all about making your bath time routine feel like a treat. At Sugar and Spruce, they believe that indulgence and self-care can go hand in hand. That's why they craft their products with the philosophy of fun, all while keeping them oh so good for you. It's all about finding the perfect balance, like a foam party for your senses, without any harsh chemicals or nasty preservatives. And guess what? They've got a little something for everyone under their umbrella. That's right, ladies, gentlemen, even the little ones can enjoy the magic of Sugar and Spruce bath products. It's a bath time extravaganza for the whole family. So, look, whether you're a bath aficionado, a bubble enthusiast, or just someone who wants to add a sprinkle of joy to your day and have a great start, Sugar and Spruce has you covered. They got bath bombs that sizzle, bath salts that transport you to a serene oasis, and handcrafted traditional soap, which I just love, to make your skin feel fresh and clean, as well as a line of products just for men. Support a women and family-owned business. A family, you might even recognize the name when you check it out. And treat yourself to some blissful bubbles today. Now, head over to their website today at sugarandspruce.com and give yourself the gift of indulgence by entering the code FRED, and you'll get 20% off your first order. That's right. If you shop online and use code FRED at checkout, you'll get a whopping 20% off your first order of handmade bath and body products straight from Fredericksburg, Virginia. That's Sugar and Spruce, SPRUCE.com. Sugar and Spruce bath products, where the everyday routines become extraordinary treats. All right, we're back. So, another thing that is going on here in Missouri, which is unique, and it's a very Missouri issue, but I do talk about it because it relates to this larger idea of the way the Republicans are managing and governing, right? Which what we're seeing is Missouri's a great place. I like to use Missouri here for the followers and listeners and readers and viewers because it is a state that's been a supermajority for many, many years, and I say a lot that when you think about the idea of giving the Republicans the Senate, giving the Republicans the House completely, with a cleaner majority, their governance is really effing bad, right? That their ability to govern is bad. We're seeing that now in the House. They all hate each other. That's the funniest thing is you saw it last night in the debate. They all hate each other. They don't work together. But the mismanagement here in Missouri, that's manifested very starkly with the food aid program, which is a federal program. I think you and I are talking about today. I mean, right now, an article came out from the Missouri Independent that 177,000 kids still have not received federal food aid that goes through the state from last year. This is summer food aid. For those who understand, this is kids who are out of school. They get food aid over the summer, but this was for last year, and Missouri was unable to distribute the money. And why, Jess? Why were they unable to distribute it? I mean, you have. I'm sure you're familiar with it already.
Do you allow the SHIT word on
Oh, yeah,
here?
this is a, yeah, we can say shit. We can say
because
fuck.
it's a shit show. Because it's a shit show.
Yeah.
It is. When you say govern, I hope that you had your air quotes up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There is no governing in this state. There is nobody that knows what's going on. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. They're all working for their own lobbyist.
Yeah.
Not only have they not distributed the food from the year ago, but we sent back $42 million to the feds because we couldn't figure out how to distribute it to kids this year.
Yeah.
This year.
Wow.
And that to me is just the epitome of what is going on here. We're dropping kids off of Medicaid, right? Yep. We're kicking them off left and right. But we're a pro-life state, Fred.
Right.
We're pro-life, right?
Right.
No, we're not. We're pro-birth, and everything else is just falling apart. Like I said, my road is falling apart. The bus ride is an hour and a half for kids because we can't get bus drivers because we don't pay them, right?
Jeez.
The schools are falling apart. Our hospitals are closing. And when I knock doors, people talk about Joe Biden.
Wow.
Friend, Joe Biden has no idea where you live. He doesn't know you, but your representative does. He knows exactly where Maryville, Missouri is, and he doesn't care about you, right?
Yep.
So the governance isn't happening. I was one of the teachers who had my Social Security number exposed on our state website for years.
Yep.
Remember? And a reporter said, hey, Mike Parson, by the way, you can see every Social Security for the teacher in the state. And what did he do? He sued the reporter.
Try to get him arrested. Try to get a Post. For those who don't know the story, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch had a data reporter, and all he had to do was, I believe, right-click on the website to go to the HTML. And when the HTML version of the state website exposed all the private PII and private information of all the teachers, nothing more than a right click. So the governor, instead of saying, thank you for doing that, by the way, which is what the education department said, they said, hey, we appreciate you doing this. When the governor found out, his decision was to try and get a criminal investigation open. He did a press conference saying that the Post-Dispatch reporter had hacked the website and was therefore a hacker. Right clicking, and you can do it right now on your browser if you're watching this at home. Right click on a web page, I think, and it says show HTML, and boom, you see the code behind a website. It's like really hard stuff. I mean, I'm an effing idiot. I mean, I have no tech. That's just why Matt's back there, because I don't know what F I'm doing. And these jackwads decide trying to get a criminal prosecution against the reporter, which eventually, I think he gave it to some sheriff, and the sheriff's like, bro, it's not a crime. I got nothing. But that's the way they govern, right? They attack those who question the dynamic, and that's up at Congress, right? We just heard that Jim Jordan is going to use the House Judiciary Committee to open an investigation. I did air quotes on that one, an investigation on Fani Willis for her outrageously actually charging crimes in her district where she was elected to charge crimes. And so this is the way of Republican governance. We see it in the micro here in Missouri, and we're not alone, right? You talk at other states. You talked about Oklahoma. You talk about Texas. You talk about Florida. You talk about Georgia, for God's sake. This is everywhere. In North Carolina, thank God they have a Republican or a Democrat governor just stopped an outrageous voting rights bill. I mean, this is the story in large swaths of our country that people are trying to fight back and preserve their way of life against entrenched cultural and tribal ways that they just, like you said, it's, well, I'm a Christian, or, well, I've always voted Republican. Where's their hope, Jess? I try to, one of the weird things I do in this show is I actually try to give viewers and followers hope a little bit. And I know you well enough to know you do actually have hope. You are actually, you're a happy warrior. I mean, we've been laughing this whole time. I actually had a viewer criticize me that the other day. Like, this is a serious issue. You laugh. I'm like, the biggest laugh ever had.
What can we do?
Yeah, I mean, and the biggest laugh I ever had was when I got shot at. I mean, I almost got shot. I mean, it's just, what can you do? I almost got shot down by a Apache. He fired rockets by accident, and they missed my aircraft by about 6 inches, and we laughed our asses off. But that's just the way. All you can do is laugh at this point. But you're a happy warrior. You do what you do. You're in Blue, Missouri for a reason. You ran for office because you believe something. You believe change is possible. How is change possible, Jess? How do people who watch this show or listen to it, where do they find hope? And I say it a lot. We're winning, and I think you have agreed with me on that. But tell me, where do you find the hope, Jess?
I find hope in knowing that 1 in 4 people in my district feel strongly enough that they would have voted for me. So that gave me the ammunition to say, we are here, and every single person out here deserves representation. This is my state too. And I drew a line in the sand, and I will not take any more of this. My kids and my grandkids are here, right?
Yeah.
I don't have, when people say move to California, move to New York, one, that's classist. How am I going to do that, by the way? How would I do that?
Yeah.
And two, no, this is my state, and I'm not going anywhere. So I know that I have to organize, and I have to activate, the people in my community. I just talked to a community member earlier today, and she's like, how can we get, a bipartisan group of women together? And I was like, good luck if you invite me. The Republicans are like, I ain't touching her. I ain't going. But the hope is that our kids and grandkids are here, and that we have to keep going. There's no way to stop doing this.
Yeah.
And so when I have a lot of people say, oh, you have trolls all the time, how do you deal with this? I do. I have nasty, nasty trolls.
Yeah.
But I have the best folks that get in there and they say, thank you for your voice. I can't say the things that you're saying. I'm behind, a fake profile because I'm a teacher, because I'm a librarian. But thank God for you, because every single day you're saying the things that I wish that I could say. So I know that there's hope. And the way that we do this is by deep canvassing, is by sending people out with a democratic message to people who have never heard it and say, I look like you. I don't have horns. I don't drink baby's bloods. This is what I want for you. I want you to be happy, healthy, and educated. That's it. Your representative does not. He spent 4 months in Jeff City trying to keep 6 kids from playing soccer while your road collapsed, while you can't cross your bridge, while you can't, go to the hospital because they closed it. And by the way, with the hospital closures, people, in our pro-life state, you're forced to bear children if you become pregnant. There are communities all across northern Missouri and in rural parts of Missouri where you don't have access to an OB either. So not only are you forced to deliver a pregnancy, you have nowhere to deliver the pregnancy. It's an hour and a half to, the nearest hospital. Wow. These abortion bans, these things that Republicans are doing are harming Missourians and in some case killing Missourians.
Yep.
And so the hope is that my neighbors realize that when I talk to them, when you talk to them, when we deploy the kids out and say, please knock on the doors and give them the message, that's my hope.
Yep. And that goes for Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Georgia, it is the same thing. And I do hear that same message, and we've got winning images. We are winning issues right now, right? We really do. The abortion one, I know we're working really hard in Missouri right now to try and get abortion on a petition, a constitutional petition. We know it just won in Ohio. It did win in Kansas right next door. Kansas is able to beat back the attempts to stop abortion. So it almost feels like, believe it or not, we actually have issues that matter to people, right? The world has changed a little bit where they're tired of hearing about transgender kids when women are dying. Those are actually bipartisan issues, right? Because they are not partisan. A woman dying because she can't deliver a baby soon enough, or God forbid having to carry an ectopic pregnancy and it bursts, unable to have children ever again. These are real issues that women get, and it doesn't seem like the Republican Party is in step with the reality of what they're facing.
They're not. And you saw that last night in the debate that they're super hesitant to say that they would go for a federal ban, which I don't trust them for 1 second. I think that they would. Yeah. But they're hesitant to say it because they know how unpopular it is. It's been on 6 ballots. It has won on 6 ballots. And going back to something we were talking about earlier, school choice, when it's put to a ballot, has never won in any state either, because these things are unpopular, which is why they do it legislatively and they leave the voters out, right?
Yeah.
That's what they do in Missouri.
Yep. Now it is a matter of forgetting who they represent and now being more and more out of touch. I saw an article showed that Gen Zers, for example, are registering to vote, I think, twice the pace that boomers are dying off. In other words, it's not just a one-for-one exchange. As older people pass away, they're actually doubling it right now. And so even the electorate we faced in 2020 is going to be a very different electorate in 2024 because of these younger generation and activated women. I mean, I think that's why they're fighting so hard to keep abortion off the ballot, right? The last thing they want. I mean, imagine what will happen in the fall here. And this is across the country. If you've got abortion and you've got Donald Trump at the top of the ticket in the same,
that's going to be tough.
It's going to be some turnout.
That's why they're trying to keep it off.
Yeah, they're desperate to keep the turnout down. They are scared of this. They know. I've talked to Republicans privately, and they know Donald Trump's going to be. It's going to depress their turnout. It's going to explode Democratic turnout in ways they can't fathom. I've seen story after story of Republicans who are famous in their little state or wherever they are who are going to run. Like, I'm going to run for the Senate. Everybody knows Bob's going to run for Senate, and Bob's like, I'm good, because they know they know if abortion's on the ballot or Donald Trump's on the ballot, they're screwed. They're just because they want us to stay home, right? That's the key. So tell me, how can we find out more about Blue Missouri, your efforts to try and get more people elected? How do we find your podcast and all the things you're doing?
So my podcast is everywhere where you get a podcast. It's just just search for Dirt Road Democrat. On Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I'm Piper for Missouri. And then TikTok, which is my favorite, Fred. You can find me at Jess Piper Mo. And then Blue Missouri, it's bluemissouri.org. Or you can text my name, Piper, to 33777 and just get signed up to, see what's going on. And like I said, I'm not a good salesperson. I'm a teacher. But this thing is legitimate. And I would know because as a candidate, I ran and I had a lot of people, sending me information that was not legitimate. Yeah. And this really is. We send checks to down ballot candidates. We do what we say. And I think that's why people appreciate it.
Well, it's wonderful. I'm a fan, obviously, because I'm stealing all your ideas and doing it at the federal level. Yeah, because that's what I do. It's kind of hard. You guys understand how hard it is to keep up with Jess. Like, I'll talk to our partners at Every State Blue. Like, well, Jess did this and Jess did that. Like, I don't do TikTok. Look at this face. I'm not a TikTok guy. Nobody wants to watch me on TikTok. I'm old. Well, Jess, I'm such a huge fan. I appreciate you taking time to talk to us. These are such great issues for everybody in the country to know. I think we all need to understand that the dynamics we think we know are not the dynamics that people face in other parts of our country. And it's not class, it's not race, it is literally where you live sometimes. And where you live matters as much as anything else. So thanks for representing us all so strongly. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Man, what a great chat. I am such a super fan of Jess, as you can see why. Her energy and her passion for our democracy. The first time I met her for when I was working the Lincoln Project, and I was like, yeah, she didn't mention it, by the way, but her son's a National Guard soldier, and they've sacrificed a lot for this nation, and she continues to do it in ways that are unimaginable. You cannot imagine the hate and the vitriol and the poison she faces from elected officials in Missouri. She's the favorite foil of our elected Republican state representatives and senators, and it is absolutely disgusting. And you know what she does? You saw her. She smiles, laughs, keeps on going, doing what she does. So it's a fascinating story. So I'm really glad you joined us in that one. Wednesday was the Republican debate, and I watched it for you folks. 2 hours I watched that shit show, and what was interesting to me among many things is I had a conversation today with John Nichols. Is what it almost feels like the Republican electorate, the Republican candidates are running against essentially the meme of Democratic policies, right? They talked about defunding the police. They talked about abortion up to and after birth. They talked about climate change being a hoax. All these things, and in many ways, it almost as like they're running against the cartoon version of Democrat policy. And I tweeted about this, and one of the remarkable things is the replies from, of course, MAGA saying, "Look at this. Here's where Portland defunded their police," and they'll send me a story from like 2020 where they talked about cutting the budget, and then all I got to do is Google, and 30 seconds later, I got the story in 2022 where they never actually cut the money. The money actually went up. Same thing in San Francisco. It's a myth on the right that anyone was defunded. Like, well, money did go down. It's insanity. They seem to forget what was going on in 2020. Oh, a fucking pandemic where everybody stayed home. Okay, it is remarkable. And then, of course, as I mentioned during the show, crime is going down. Atlanta has seen a huge drop. Even St. Louis, Missouri, which is often called the murder capital of America, sadly, my lovely city, murder went down 22% this year over last year, and other crimes are as low as 50% lower. So this whole mythology that these people are running on, it's like they're frozen in time from 2020. And the key for us, I think, as opponents to this right-wing extremist movement is just calling out the facts. And it's not fun. I answer these people with 118 followers on X/Twitter because I want them to say, yeah, explain to me this article. Well, they are impermeable to facts. As one of our guests once said, you can't fact check a myth. And these are myths, and they're running against myths. And it's great. If you watch that audience in the debate last night, man, they're hooting and hollering and having a good old time. It was like a rally, which is not a normal debate. It was much more like a Trump rally in many ways. It wasn't a debate in any way. It was a hooting and hollering, showdown, and they're yelling at each other. They all hate each other. And that is what Americans are seeing. Americans are seeing abortion being attacked. Americans are seeing climate change being attacked. They're seeing Ukraine funding being attacked. They're seeing Donald Trump not be attacked at all. They saw 6 out of 8 in the stage raise their hands and they would vote for him even if convicted of felonies. There was a time when even being accused of a crime or impropriety, how many candidates do we lose who were having affairs? How many candidates do we lose who said something weird and couldn't spell potato, for example, right? And these guys were literally committing to voting for a candidate for president of the United States, a convicted felon. A convicted felon. And that's what the Republican Party is today. That's what's become. So, people talk about winners and losers from this week's debate. It's obvious that Trump won it by not showing up. There's no question about that. They never laid a finger on him. They didn't attempt to lay a finger on him. DeSantis was a giant loser. It's kind of funny. I did a short video this week about the leak from the Never Back Down PAC. I don't know if you heard about this, but this massive leak, right? And it was a leak. It wasn't on purpose. Everybody's trying to say it was on purpose. If it was on purpose, it would have been on the PAC's website, but it was not on the PAC's website. It was on Axiom Strategies, Jeff Rose consulting firm's website, and they put it right in the news feed, the media page of their website, and included 400 pages of polling data, like the back end, the actual questions they asked in their poll. This is proprietary data. My God, the slides they posted on Iowa for DeSantis literally said, do not share on it from the company that did it, WPI International, which is a polling company. So it was an accident. And, a lot of us mocked because the strategy suggestions were things like, defend Trump against Christie and tell a heartfelt story. It was all these things, attack, slam dunk Vivek Ramaswamy. All those things were in there. And we all widely mocked, the political strategists from across the spectrum mocked the strategy as being bad. And I got to tell you, it would have been better than what he did, because what he did was absolute shit. I mean, DeSantis looked like a freaking idiot, from his weird smile to the trying to be yelly stuff that he was doing. It was so bizarre and poorly executed that DeSantis, I think, is going to fall. I would not be surprised if Vivek Ramaswamy ends up being in second place within a couple of days now, because they love all of his bullshit, from denying climate change as being real. And there's some wonderful videos floating around the internet of his story. The fact that he bought a drug that failed four tests, 4 clinical trials. He bought it and then rebranded it and sold it by taking off some of the failure points. And then when it failed again, he'd already punched out of his company and taken his money and run from the VCs. The guy's a crook. But you know what? They loved it. They love it. And so this is what we're seeing. But most of all, the end is something we talked about a little bit in the show, is I know Gen Z was watching. Friends of mine from Gen Z are watching. And what they saw very clearly were the issues they care about weren't just ignored. You have to see what happened there. The issues that Gen Z cared about were actually attacked. Gen Z cares about climate change. My God, that debate occurred in a town that outside that facility had a 114-degree heat index, record-setting temperatures. We had a hurricane in freaking California last week. These are real issues. Gen Z knows climate change is real. So to see the leading voices of the Republican Party say, nah, it's a hoax. We need fossil fuels to perpetuate the human race. That was an amazing statement from Vivek as well. They're seeing that. When they see the right to abortion being threatened with a national ban that starts at 6 weeks, when they see the lies saying that people are actually trying to get abortion on demand all the way to birth, which is just not true, no matter how many times I say it. Yes, abortion illegal till birth is because of medical emergency, because a baby is going to die, the mother's going to die. Nobody wants that. We're not saying there should be on demand, that a woman can just carry a baby. And not to mention the fucking reality of it. Women don't carry a baby for 9 months, say, you know what, never mind. It's a fucking fantasy, and they're running against these fucking fantasies. But tell you what, man, the average American isn't looking at right-wing memes. The average American, believe it or not, is not watching fucking Fox News. They're not. Certainly not Gen Z. And so this alternate environment, this alternate universe that so many of these guys live in and are running in, doesn't exist to most Americans. A lot of the stuff they were talking about last night, average people watching that were dumbfounded. They had no idea what they're talking about. These people are so very online and memed that they don't even know they're running in a reality. It'll be fascinating to see when the reality comes crashing in. But I'm telling you right now, the general electorate doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. And come November 2024, they're going to find out that people don't want to run against memes. They're going to see their lives improving. It's a full year and a half from now. By then, what's the economy going to be doing? By then, what are jobs going to be like? A lot of good things could happen in a year, and they're going to keep on going. So have faith. I mean, if nothing else, it was discouraging to watch that stupid shit show. but as also as a person who's a campaign strategist, it was very encouraging. We got so much material. You see, here's the thing. They always hang like AOC or Nancy Pelosi around every single Democratic candidate. Well, guess what? We're going to hang Vivek and Nikki Haley wanting a national ban and DeSantis's, authoritarian ridiculousness around every single Republican candidate. They own the worst people in their freaking party. Just like we are always attacked of owning people who, by the way, had turned out to be wonderful, wonderful leaders. But the street goes two ways. And professional people like me and my colleagues, like I'm sure Lincoln Project, are going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to make it very clear to them which side we're on, which side is pro-democracy. So there you have it. I tell you, I hope you enjoy the show as much as I enjoy talking to my friend Jess. I hope you'll patronize our sponsors and our friends who are so kind to sponsor the show, as including my own family. And we just really love having you here. As you know, I'm the chairman of the thing called the Forgotten Democrats, which is the partner, as my caveat, to Jess's organization at the state level. We just had a great town hall with Dennis Aftergut, a former guest, and a wonderful candidate out of Idaho named Kaylee Peterson. It was just you missed a great town hall. So I would love you to send, just like Jess, you send Fred to 33777 and you can get our email list. We're not going to spam the hell out of you. Join a really interesting community that's growing and that will actually fund candidates, not running ads, not, doing weird shit. Actually, the money is split amongst all the donors and it goes to candidates who need the money the most first. So I hope you'll check it out. That's forgottendemocrats.org. And you can just text Fred 33777 and you can be part of our email list. In the meantime, you can find me online. Threads is growing. I guess they got a desktop app for Threads now. So that's exciting. I'm FP Wellman Official on Threads. I'm FP Wellman Official on Instagram. FP Wellman on X/Twitter, wherever you may find us. As always, the show is on Democracy Pod. Man, we just love having you here. I'm thrilled to have you part of the Midas Touch family. Thrilled to be a part of it. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and we will see you next week.